Good morning. Welcome to our Unitarian Universalist Church of Redding's in-person and online summer Sunday, not summer. It is the last week in February and winter has decided, oh yeah, I forgot. So it is here today. And thank you for being here. My name is Al Murray. I'm a member of the Worship Arts and Technology teams, and my pronouns are he, him. This morning, we gather in an understanding, welcoming, and family-friendly environment where we nurture and explore individual spirituality, work to build a committed and loving community, and help heal the world. Whoever you are, wherever you are from, whoever you love, whatever your faith tradition, you are welcome here. If this is your first time with us, I would like to extend a special welcome to you. If you haven't already, please look at our webpage for more information about UUCR. Here you can find details about our church community, sign up for the weekly newsletter, and find the contact information for Melissa Martin, our Member Services Coordinator. There was a bit of a confusion. One part of the order of service is incorrect. Today being the last day of vacation, unless it snows tonight, there is no RE classes today, and our children will stay in the sanctuary with us. Later on in the service, we will collect our offering, and is our spiritual tradition here. We share half of each week's offering with a nonprofit organization that shares our UU values. We do this not because we have more than we need, but because there is so much need, and this is a simple yet powerful way to heal, for each of us to live out our mission's commitment to heal the world by becoming more involved in our community, by learning about and supporting the good works of charitable organizations. Our Share the Plate recipient for the month of February is Redding Power, people organized to welcome immigrants and refugees. After the fall of Afghanistan in 2021, Redding Power came together to welcome a family who had fled the chaos at the Kabul airport. Thanks to support, the family is now well on their way to living independently, and Redding Power has expanded to provide assistance to another Afghan family, working together to provide ESL tutoring, financial support, and transportation assistance. Reading Power is an all-volunteer group, and every penny collected is used directly for support. Please give generously to our Share the Plate offering to support both Reading Power and the mission of UUCR. If you are watching this service online during its initial broadcast at 10 on February 26th, please join us after the service for conversation via Zoom, hosted by AJ Heidekamp. If you're attending in person, please join us in Fellowship Hall following the service for social hour. Reverend Laura has the day off, and we'd like to welcome our guest minister, Reverend Joe Murphy. Reverend Joe is the new executive director for UU Mass Action and has jumped right into mobilizing and organizing with the many UU Mass Action campaigns. Joe previously worked as a chaplain at Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center in Boston, in addition to being a case manager supporting people living with brain injuries. She is a volunteer organizer with the Boston Immigration Justice Accompaniment Network and loves runs that ends in brunch. On behalf of all the staff and volunteers involved in today's worship, I want to thank you for being with us this morning, physically and virtually, and we believe that you belong here. We believe that you belong here maybe just for the next hour, although we hope for much, much longer. You belong here, and we give thanks that you are joining us today.
Good morning. Welcome into this space. Let us remind ourselves not only is this space a sanctuary, but we hold sanctuary between and among us. Let us feel these many sanctuaries, and let us be sanctuaries of love, of action, of worship. Let us worship together in and amongst sanctuary. I invite you to join us in sharing our chalice lighting, which is located in your order of service. In the fire of commitment, we gather this day. May the flame we now kindle be to us a symbol of the holiness we seek. We are Unitarian Universalists, the church of the open mind, loving heart, and helping hands. If you would now please rise as you are willing and able in singing our opening hymn, 128, For All That Is Our Life, in the gray hymnal. Okay, if there's any children or those young at heart who wants to come up to the steps. All right, so I'm going to have you all help me with something soon, but my sermon today is about justice, but mostly it's not about justice, it's about what we do to prepare to do good justice. Now, can any of you tell us what justice is? Thoughts? Have you heard it? Yeah, okay. Anyone else? What is justice? Choir? Yeah. Yeah, great. I love that. Being able to be free, so making sure that things are fair and that we uphold that, so that we act on being fair and making spaces where we can all be free. Perfect. Yes. And equal protection under the law. Excellent. Anything else? All right, so in order to do this is a lot. It's a lot to make space for everyone to be free and for us to have equality under our laws and with each other. And sometimes that can be very emotional. And sometimes in our world, there's not a lot of space to be emotional. So today we're going to do a little justice stretch and also have a time at the beginning where we're a little emotional. So I talk in my sermon how sometimes we don't have space to be sad, but actually it's really important because in our world there's so much unfairness and so much things that aren't just that we need to let ourselves feel the sadness. So if you all want to come up. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do to represent sort of the sadness is we're just going to cry. And of course, it's not going to be real crying, but whatever you do to fake cry. And then we're going to very gently put our hands on our hearts. So if you want to turn to the audience and show them what fake crying looks like. There we go, Tish, you ready? All right, ready, set, maybe some moaning. Get it? Oh, get it all out. And then put your hand on your heart. Take a moment to feel that heartbeat. Sometimes I know we weren't really crying, but we feel a little relieved after we cry. Take a moment to feel. Okay, and now we're ready for action. So we are going to, and people can do this seated as well, reach down to the grassroots. Up to the sky for inspiration. Stomp out injustice. And move with the winds of change. And then we're feeling nervous about the world, so we're going to do it a little faster. Reach down to the grassroots. Up for inspiration, stomp out injustice, go with the winds of change, reach down to the grassroots, up for inspiration, stomp out injustice, stomp it a little more, and go with the winds of change. One more time, reach down to the grassroots, up for inspiration, stomp out injustice, and flow with the winds of change. Now we can put our hands on our hearts again, and we can say, blessed are those who believe in justice and those who act on it. Blessed are those who believe in justice and those who act on it. Blessed be. Thank you. The quote we had this morning on our order of service from bell hooks tells us, to be loving is to be open to grief, to be touched by sorrow, even sorrow that is unending. Before we light our candles, let us breathe in and open our hearts. Let us imagine our hearts growing bigger and bigger at a time in our world where war still wages, where environmental disaster continues. Let us imagine our hearts growing and growing. Let us breathe in and give. Let us breathe out and receive. Let us breathe in and receive. Let us breathe out and give. We light our red candle of community to signify our interconnection. Wherever you are in time and space, newcomer or long-time member, here in the sanctuary or joining us virtually, we light this candle holding you in love. May this light welcome and hold you, reminding you that that your presence is needed in this community. As we light this candle, I invite you to speak aloud the name or names of people who are on your mind and heart today, to bring them fully into this space. We light our blue candle of peace for all the places worldwide where people live with the threat of war and violence. This week particularly, we hold in our hearts all of the veterans. We hold those whose service was brief and those who dedicated their lives to this service. We send love to those who remember their service fondly and those who are haunted by that time. And we hold in our hearts those who've returned from service and entered lives of health and wholeness, who have returned irreparably changed. And we light our yellow candle of justice. May all people everywhere live their lives in freedom, and may we each do our part in the work for justice and liberation for all in our global community. As we recommit ourselves to the work of love and justice, may we each voice this commitment by saying, Amen. Let us hold all these flames in our hearts, and may they combine with all the love that is there to burn brightly and true in love, in peace, and in all that is community. Amen, and blessed be. If you have a joy or sorrow you would like to honor through lighting a silent candle, you are invited to come forward now. May all these candles lit and unlit, the prayers said and unsaid, the joys, concerns, let them be held in our hearts, let them be held in the collective heart that is all of our hearts beating, and let them be held in a sacred space that is holy. Amen.
Our reading today is an excerpt from Adrienne Marie Brown's Abolition Spell. All that is light, break bars between teeth, grind bricks down to dust, explode a sun-scale life force in each direction until the cages shed like dead skin. Brief, steamy night, slip through the cracks like rain, nourish the soil. The parents who cannot hear their children tonight, and in the dreams of the babies, let them be held so they know to keep growing. Sun, 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 let them grow up strong. 1 tree, 2 trees, forests that break the foundations of slave culture, burst the seams of prison walls, find home beyond the trauma of this night. All that is light. Beam into the heart of parents who would never, ever let a child, any child, scream in terror when they come for safety. Find the crack in the spirit and fill it with gold. All that is darkness. Abolish ICE. Abolish slavery, abolish prisons, abolish borders, abolish colonialism, abolish our addiction to punishing everyone who needs healing.
In remote forests in Madagascar, there is an orchid that is somewhat star-shaped, a delicate branching of white petals called the star of the forest. She may look delicate, and one may think her name comes from her shape, but she is also the star of the forest because she grows in complete darkness. This isn't just a survival technique for her. She thrives in darkness. The orchid gets nutrients from underground fungus, does not have chlorophyll for photosynthesis, but cuts through the forest dirt every so often to attract pollinators, such as ants. I love reading about this orchid for many reasons. The first being that we are still seemingly in winter, and the days are icier and darker and shorter than I would like. I also love knowing that there is thriving in darkness. This orchid is a reminder for me that the ability for life to survive and thrive in unexpected places, in dark forest floors, that though they may be threatened by the destruction of the earth, at least for now, host orchids. Beautiful, delicate pieces of joy, thriving orchids that live happily and healthily in the dark. This winter, I have been in need of the possibility that exists within thriving orchids. As a leader of the organization UUMass Action, we encounter so much injustice. Working alongside organizers on legislation, on advocacy and change in the areas of climate, environmental justice, Indigenous justice, decarceration, immigrant and economic justice, there is much injustice to be found. In these movement spaces, I find myself standing in that awkward space of not being very hopeful, but having hope for the possibility of hope. I know that people have the capacity to do better, even when I see again and again that we do not always act on this capacity. When thinking about what blocks my ability to move from having hope in hope to just hope, I think about my ability to grieve. I believe that if we take time and space to grieve, and being in grieving, we have a greater capacity for joy, for delight, and we need this joy, we need this delight to continue on in these movement spaces and to remember why we fight. This past summer, Joni Mitchell, who is now 79 years old, made a surprise guest appearance at the Newport Jazz Festival. She sang Both Sides Now with Brandi Carlile. This is a haunting, definitely sad, beautiful sounding song. And when I watched the video, I did not weep, I sobbed. I'm sure many of you have experienced songs, art, moments that feel that they are breaking you open. I think this song for me, both in its melody and its lyrics at the time, broke me open. And this kind of experience, I believe, is better felt than talked about. And I'm wondering, are there people here who know the song Both Sides Now? Okay. So we're not going to sing the whole thing unless we just get carried away, then it's fine. But whatever lyrics you know, if you just want to hum, la la la, let's sing a little bit. Rows and flows of angel hair and ice cream castles in the air and feather canyons everywhere. I've looked at clouds that way, but now they only block the sun. They rain and snow on everyone. So many things I would have done, but clouds got in the way. I've looked at clouds from both sides now, from up and down, and still somehow it's cloud illusions I recall. I really don't know clouds at all. Moons and Junes and Ferris wheels, the dizzy dancing way you feel as every fairy tale comes real. I've looked at love that way, but now it's just another show, and leave 'em laughing when you go. And if you care, don't let them know. Don't give yourself away. I've looked at love from both sides now, from give and take, and still somehow it's love's illusions I recall. I really don't know love at all. Thank you. Part of me sobbing in this moment was part, it's so beautiful, part loving Joni Mitchell and seeing her still singing, and part of it was I just needed to cry. Today we had a quote from Adrienne Maree Brown, who also talks about water. She talks about, remember, you are water. Of course you leave salt trails. Of course you are crying. As a leader, as an organizer, part of accepting grief is necessary to staying in the work, to staying connected to the world, to getting to that point where you can open up to joy and delight and be grounded in that, to fight for that. Not only do we need to grieve, we are grieving in the midst of so many losses and circumstances that persist, that continue. We are tired of making so many decisions that are not flippant decisions, but that relate to our survival. We are tired of living through uprisings and seeing racism viciously persist. We are tired of a war that has now lasted a year. We are tired of deportations continuing. We are tired of our prison system. We are tired of fighting for an earth that some seem to care about and others don't. We are tired. Of course we are crying. I cry often now. I cry when I am in a meeting for ending solitary confinement, listening to stories of survivors who have been in solitary confinement for 30 years. I then cry at poems. I cry when I hear fellow ministers who are so anxious about our climate, but also so endearingly hopeful. I cry at songs. I cry when I talk about the numerous losses that we have all collectively incurred, and those, the ones I have personally felt. I cry at the ones still to come and let myself cry and feel somewhat better, or at least more attuned with reality. I feel a release, and I also feel ready. In a recent conversation with an organizer, we talked about the fear we encountered when trying to organize. The fear of everything going up or already being in flames. The fear that is already too late. We talked about how to move from this fear, leaving this place of fear so we can actually move. We talked about what it meant to move from this fear, recognizing that part of the move is seeing those new beginnings, the hope and possibility that when systems, what we saw as normal changes, when it breaks down, when it ends, there is possibility. There's hope for new potential systems, new hope. Whether or not we are able to build these new and better systems remains an unknown. But I have hope. The possibility that as our world shifts, there could be better systems and ways of being. And I think this needs to be felt more. But first we have to grieve the damage these old systems have caused us. We have to grieve and accept our tears that are a part of us, an expression of our love for life and beauty. In an article about eco-anxiety entitled, "How Can I Stay Hopeful as the World Burns?" Isa Mirza interviews Robin Wall Kimmerer, author of the book Braiding Sweetgrass, Indigenous Wisdom, Scientific Knowledge, and the Teaching of Plants. Mirza asks Kimmerer how she stays hopeful, and she says, "The grief is heartbreaking, but what I try to do is to feel that deeply. We can't look away from it because to me, grief is the measure of how much we love this world." Grief can paralyze us, it can bring us despair and hopelessness, but when we recognize that the pain we are feeling is ecological compassion, it's love for a world that is strong and fierce, and lets me say, not on my watch. Kimmerer goes on to say, "I always ask myself and others, what do you love too much to lose? Commit to that and know that it's our responsibility to pick that up and carry it through the narrows of climate change, that this is what the world will look like on the other side." It is no joke to feel grief deeply, especially when there's too much to grieve. But I think it helps when we know that in part to grieve is to love. As Bell Hooks reminds us, to be loving is to be open to grief, to be touched by sorrow, even when that sorrow is unending. Even if the sorrow is unending, I think we can take comfort that so is our love. To be touched by sorrow is to know you love, and to love is to grieve. The full quote about water from Adrienne Marie Brown goes, "Remember you are water. Of course you leave salt trails. Of course you are crying. If there happens to be a multitude of griefs upon you, individual and collective, fast or slow, small or weak, add equal parts of these considerations. That the broken heart can cover more territory. That perhaps love can only be as large as grief demands. That grief is the growing up of the heart that bursts boundaries like an old skin or finished life. That the heart is a front line in the fight to feel in a world of distraction. That your grief is worthwhile use of your time. That your body will feel only as much as it is able. That the ones you grieve may be grieving you. That the sacred comes from the limitations, and that you are excellent at loving." Our broken hearts certainly have a lot of territory to cover, but I have hope and knowledge that our frontline hearts can cover it. I think it's going to take work, but not more than we can handle. To want to survive in of itself is a beautiful thing. To want to survive in a broken world on flames is even more beautiful, and perhaps it is, at its core, hope. I have found spaces to grieve, and as I work with UMass Action, I continue to grieve, and I continue to move from meeting to meeting, from legislative action to legislative action, crafting and creating moments of joy where there are none, and treasuring them when they just come along. Let us nurture our longing to survive. Let us remember why we fight, and let us remember this by creating and finding joy. Let us find and enjoy the orchids that grow in complete darkness. Let us let ourselves cry and grieve. Let us remember that our pain is love and that we've always had more than enough of that. Of course you are crying. Of course we are crying. Let us let the tears flow as reminders of how deeply we all are in love with this world.
Our congregation exists and thrives through the gifts of those who call this place their spiritual home. If you are here with us in the sanctuary, you may put your gift in the collection plate as it goes by. Otherwise, you may make a gift online or send an old-fashioned check. Please give as generously as you are willing and able to our Share the Plate offering to support Reading Power and the mission of UUCR. If this is your first time with us, your presence is gift enough. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Melissa Martin, your Member Services and Volunteer Coordinator. My pronouns are she and her. Thank you to Reverend Joe for being with us this morning and for helping to foster these connections. Our March newsletter is out and is full of opportunities for engagement, including messages from our very own governing board president and staff, as well as our worship arts team, welcoming congregation, and more. It also gives you information about each of the next 4 weekends of March, where we have something great planned, including next Sunday, March 5th, when Reverend Laura leads us in service, followed by a social hour that will include a meet and greet for our new friends to spend time with her. On Sunday, March 12th, Reverend Laura will lead us in a service, and we will have music from a joint choir of UUCR and Winchester Unitarian Society. Then you are invited to stay for a special social hour celebration to honor our work together. We'll also have a congregational quilting activity where the UUCR quilters will help us prepare our raffle quilt together. On Sunday, March 19th, Nancy Nienhaus will lead our service with music from our UCR Women's Trio. And a social hour will be hosted by the UCR quilters with a second chance to participate in our congregational quilting activity. Mark your calendars and save the date for Saturday, March 25th to join us at 6 p.m. for the return of our annual Starlight Soiree auction. Auction items will be offered to fit every budget at this adult evening social event. With excitement building, we need your help to make it a true success. Suzanne Sullivan, one of our ushers today, is in search for people who are willing to contribute either appetizers or desserts. And if you can bring something, please contact Suzanne or see me, and I will put you in touch with her. Finally, on Sunday, March 26th, Reverend Laura will lead us in our annual Commitment Sunday service, and you won't want to miss it. For today, please stop by on your way out to say hello to our worship leaders and friends. Our friends online are invited to join this Zoom social hour hosted by AJ Heidkamp. Thanks, AJ. And thank you for being a vital part of our congregational life. Now, if you could join us in singing our closing hymn, number 1017, Building a New Way.
You will now join me in saying the words for extinguishing our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of the community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Let us find ourselves amongst rows and flows of angel hair, hoping, grieving, crying, knowing that we have enough love to get us all through with the beauty that is orchids that thrive in the dark. Blessed be and amen.